Hello, everybody. Ella J here on behalf of WrestleZone, and today I'm joined by the queen of the silver screen, Katie Arquette. Katie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks so much for having me. How are you?
I'm fantastic to be speaking with you, my friend. It's been a hot minute. I think the last time we talked was like last summer, so it's good to catch
Yeah.
up. Although, to be honest, by how it feels outside and in my room right now, it feels like summer. I don't know how it is around Pittsburgh, but that's how it feels for me right now.
Yeah, it's definitely warmer here right now. I should have turned my fan on. I've had the fans going all night,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, it's getting there. But I wanted to start off by talking about something exciting that you have coming up this weekend, which is an all-women show entitled Ladies Night 2 at Maryland Championship Wrestling, where you will be going one-on-one with AEW's Layla Gray, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I think is your first ever singles match with her.
It is. This will be our first encounter one-on-one, so.
So this is going to be really exciting. I feel like you two, I feel like are pretty comparable, but what are your thoughts heading into this match? What do you think fans can expect from you two?
Well, they can expect a fight
Oh
because
yeah.
I've seen her and we all know who I am. So I definitely think there's a lot of sass. There's a lot of, drama with both of us. And, she's a little batty at the same time. So I think we're going to have a really good one-on-one encounter. I'm really excited to get in the ring with her because I've seen what she has to offer and I'd like to see how it owns up to me.
I know she is a baddie, but you are a queen, which I feel like is a little bit higher. I'm just saying. I'm
A
just
little
saying.
bit, a little bit. Queen, baddie, yeah.
Exactly. I have to say though, MCW has put together quite an exciting card. Obviously, we've got Megan Bayne versus Rebecca Scott, Emily J versus JC Storm, and of course, a 30-minute Iron Woman match for the MCW Women's Championship with Gia Scott and a woman you are very familiar with, RaeLynn. So obviously, so much more is going down. But besides your match, is there any particular match on the card that you're looking forward to seeing and why?
Well, honestly, just the three that you've mentioned, like aside from mine, just those three matches, I feel they all know each other. They've all worked with each other, whether it be training or tag matches or many other promotions. So I'm curious to see each of them, but fan favorite, I am definitely excited to see RaeLynn and Gia Scott go at it because, well, like I said, this is not their first time,
No.
especially at MCW. And it's an Iron Man match, a 30-minute Iron Woman match.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see how that plays out.
Now I'm curious if you recall, I obviously like Iron Woman matches, they're pretty not foreign, but they're uncommon. We don't get to see a lot of them. Do you recall the longest match that you've ever had?
I do actually.
Okay.
I mean, I may have to go back and do my research
Yeah.
again, but I know for sure that my longest match, it was like 22 minutes long and from bell to bell, and it was against Britt Baker at
I get to
IWC
see.
for the title. And that's because the whole story built up and like watching it from bell to bell, I'm like, holy crap, it was actually like 21 minutes and change. I'm like, all right, well, I stayed in there.
Was this for one of the titles?
Yes,
Okay.
that was for the title, and I that was the night that David Arquette was there, so it was that
Yes.
match.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, it makes it even the more special. So, you can go at least two-thirds of the distance at the very least. So, maybe
Yes.
one day a 30-minute match is in your future. But obviously, right now, this being an all-women show, I kind of also wanted to touch on some of your female influences. I know Lita was a big one for you growing up, obviously, but RaeLynn is a real life one too. Who are some of the other women in your personal or professional life that inspire or empower you?
That's actually a really good question. I'm glad you asked it because I was actually talking about this yesterday and just seeing how the women's division has evolved on, AEW, WWE, and there was this reel I saw of Becky Lynch where like from start to now,
Yeah.
and it was very, very vastly different. And just talking about like those four horsewomen, like Charlotte, Becky, Bailey, and Sasha. And honestly, I have love for each of them, but my biggest inspiration would be Becky. Not only because she's changed and evolved so much, but the person, and I won't say who it was, the person that I was speaking with had commented like, I've never been a real big Becky fan, at least like at the beginning, but now like I love her. And I'm like, see, that's what makes it different different for me because I looked at her as someone that who is she? And like, but she's good. And I'm just more and more intrigued. And I
Yeah.
think out of the four of them, I feel that Becky was kind of on the other end, compared to everyone else and how they were being
Yeah.
represented. And I'm like, um, I would love to have a match with Becky. I want to see if she can put me into an armbar and how long. So I would definitely say Becky, at least in the last couple of years, she's been a true inspiration for me.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Becky's the only one of the four women that didn't hold the NXT Women's Championship, Even when Becky, Sasha, and Bailey Becky, Sasha, and Charlotte got called up, Bailey was left behind, but she was also running the show in NXT, so she got a spotlight for a while. Charlotte rose to the fame. Charlotte and Sasha were going at it. Well, Becky was she won the SmackDown Women's Championship, but for a while in between like 2016, 2017, 2018, she was kind of just floundering around in the background until, she rose up to be the man and had that story, obviously, with like Ronda Rousey and Charlotte. So it's kind of a cool kind of journey that she's had, and how you described it, of how that person kind of like didn't know or wasn't a big fan of. That's me with Charlotte. Like I feel like sometimes you just gravitate to people naturally. It didn't start out that way. So how you feel about Becky is how I feel about Charlotte. So I feel like though, but all four of them are just iconic.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
just all four of them are just overall.
100%. With this conversation, it's more nitpicking, but they're all
Yeah,
four
yeah, yeah, yeah.
great.
No, I definitely agree. Definitely inspirational to a lot of people, but kind of going along with the theme of ladies' night. I know before, I think we've discussed like you like doing putt and stuff like that, but if you were planning a ladies' night out with your friends in wrestling or in real life friends, whatever, what would the scene look like? Where would you go and what would you do if Katie Arquette was in charge?
Oh gosh. Wow. Well, there's a number of things we could
Okay.
probably do, but we'd probably start the night, nice meal, a little pre-gaming with some margaritas, maybe a couple tequila shots, because of course, and probably make our way down to either putt putt or the movies, or, we could definitely spice it up at the Pittsburgh, like Carson Street area and just like bar crawl, essentially, like go to McFadden's and Tequila Cowboy and just really understand the Pittsburgh scene and just having a grand old time. So that's
I
probably
have
what I do.
yet to be to Pittsburgh, but what's the street called again? That seems like our Elmwood Avenue is like, the every town has that strip where like all the bars are and fun stuff. What's the name of the
Yeah.
place again?
So this one actually near all them is like the North Shore, but then
Okay.
there's also East Carson Street where there's a whole nother
Oh,
row.
okay.
Yeah.
And good to know. Good to know. I'll keep that in mind
Yes.
if I make my way to Pittsburgh. But we mentioned one of your favorite frenemies who is on this ladies' night 2 card. I wanted to talk more about her, RaeLynn. She's also a focal figure in the Pittsburgh area specifically. But I feel like she's probably been the one, maybe besides Britt early on, that you've wrestled the most, I would say. So I kind of wanted to know more about your experience working with her and maybe some things that you've learned from her.
Yeah, no. So she was definitely like Britt was like one of the first few matches
Yeah.
really going into it. And then like Ziggy Hymus, who like her and I
Uh,
constantly wrestling each other, like some pretty we got there. We got there those
yeah.
first few months. But yeah, over the last 6 years, it's been me and RaeLynn. Like it's always like, what else can I do in this match with this other opponent? Like what doesn't she know about me? What don't I know about her? And I've actually learned a great deal from her because when it comes to wrestling, like something I think I can't remember if I spoke to you about this, but a seminar that I attended, I think was with Ray Rowe. It's like the moves don't matter. They don't matter. That like it doesn't matter what
Yeah.
those are. It matters on how you get there. How are you transitioning to get them in the spot where you want them to be, where it's boom, there's that big 1, 2, 3. And she's taught me how to really, be present, being wrestling, to actually understand what the roles are and what we're doing and how we're going to make the most of it. And honestly, training with her, I've learned a great deal because, she does a lot of lucha, she has lucha background and
Yeah.
experience, and don't as much. I prefer to be planted and not
Yeah.
jump, but she gets me out of my comfort zone and she pushes me to try new things, and she really challenges me and like what I'm comfortable with and what I haven't experienced yet. And I think just owning my craft and knowing what I can do, but what I can do more of is what I've learned most from her because she doesn't BS me.
Yeah. And just around the all around scope, you talked about obviously pushing yourself and trying new things. What has been the most recent new thing that you have tried or attempted?
Oh wow. Oh, now I gotta think. You put me on the spot here. So I guess just understanding the other person's move set.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be technical, because there hasn't been a whole lot of like specific moves that I've been doing that really stand out.
Mhm.
I have a DDT sequence that I've been trying to incorporate a little bit more, but just understanding my opponent and being able to reverse and just continue to reverse and get to a point where I'm on top. You know what I mean? Because like with RaeLynn, her and I just had a match at IWC for the
Yeah.
title. And there was a lot of back and forth transitions because she knows me so well and I know her so well that it just flowed in a way that I wasn't expecting. And I think that's probably where you're going to see a lot more from me as a competitor and to all the promotions that I plan to be at, and just seeing how I know how to scope you out. I know how to do my research ahead of time, and I know how I'm going to be able to finagle from yours to mine.
Yeah, so that's good that in life in general, kind of going in prepared. I mean, obviously a lot of wrestling is improv and stuff isn't always guaranteed, but
Mhm.
having your research ahead of time to kind of at least get a basic understanding of their moves or their style preference. But when it's not a new opponent and it's somebody like a RaeLynn that you have obviously an extensive history with, what does your creative approach to those matches look like? Do you kind of prefer to shake things up, or do you kind of lean into the past history and tendencies a bit more?
So that's almost like a yes and no type of
Okay. It
question
kind of
because
probably depends.
yeah, it depends
Yeah.
because like so it's 6 years. If we break it up into like sections, like the first 2 years it was more so, okay, what can we establish? What can
Yeah.
we continue to build? And then in those next like into the fourth year, it was more like, okay, like what can we change, what can we add, what can we do differently? But now it seems more like, okay, what do we do, but at the same time like look at all these transitions, look at how we can just mold together, because before it was, okay, if we do this, but now it's like we're not going to talk, we're going to work, we're going to understand each other and feel each other out to get to where we need to be. And I think that's where it really changes when talking things over and understanding our position, where it's not going to be the same that it was. It has to be different. And how do we reflect that to the crowd to let them know that this isn't just another match, or they know each other, we know this or that, but it's like, oh, that's different. Or normally she would do that now, but
Yeah.
now it's all switched. So I think it's just a matter of like transitions and just having that flexibility with her, because like you said, it's improv. You never know what to expect. It can change.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good approach. I feel like not everything is standard across the board for everything, especially in there's so many moving parts to wrestling. But
Yeah.
like you said, speaking of history, you've been in the game for 6, 7 years now. You've gotten well adjusted to it at this point. But what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in your career, whether it be in the ring, mentally, physically? I'm sure there's been a whole bunch.
Well, obviously physically, because it's a no-brainer. That's always going to be a struggle. But honestly, I would think just that mentality of it, because I said this last year and I said it this year that, it's the journey, or I've always said that. It's always been about the journey, but to understand what you want going into each year, I'm focusing on quality, not quantity of like matches and where I want to go. But I think it just changes where I need to understand what I want to be doing. And from a mentality standpoint, that can be hard. It can be, you can really struggle and lose yourself in this business. And you can do that in any business. But when it comes to chasing a dream, what do you say when you have a nightmare? Oh, it's just a dream. Don't worry about it. And
Yeah.
then in real life, when they say you have to chase your dreams, it's like, you know how difficult it is to chase your dreams? There's a lot of moving parts, and that can take a big toll on somebody, especially when you are happy for those that have only been in it for less than a handful of years and they're getting
Yeah.
opportunities, and you love that. But then you got to look at people that are in the 10th year, their 12th year, their 15th year, and they're either, just making it or making something of it. And I think that's where people need to understand that mentality. And from an emotional standpoint, you can't give up. You have to keep going, because I believe it was Adam Cole spent his 10th year at NXT. And I think it was his first year, or he was there for like 6 months or something, but he got to celebrate his 10th year on that platform. And it's like people knew who he was. And I think that's where the struggle really is just having that mentality of making it. But making it doesn't mean now. Making it means you're getting there, and that the journey isn't over even when you make it, because now he's in his 15th year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and you talk about kind of configuring, everybody obviously has different visions for their career and what they want, but you mentioned that you've kind of discovered what you do want out of this. So kind of personally, in and out of wrestling, what does Katie Arquette want? What are you striving to accomplish in the near future?
I want to continue trying to just be on TV. I'm an actress at heart,
You are.
and I want to be on TV. I want to be able to showcase my talent, my skill, my endurance and ability to perform and outweigh all the challenges on a live platform. And I've had the opportunity to both wrestle twice last year on a live platform, and that's where I want to be in the next couple of years. Granted, like I just said before, you can't put a timestamp on
Yeah.
it, but I'm still pushing to be in a position where I can actually live the dream instead of chasing it.
Yeah, and I feel like too, that's kind of as you go, you kind of mature too as well. And obviously there's a big difference from where you're at starting out to where you are now. So besides that, it seems like not confidence, but you have that a sense of assurance with yourself, and you're kind of you have a good what's the word? Just comprehension of everything, self-awareness, I feel like.
Yeah.
But what
Thank you.
else kind of how do you think that you've grown as a performer in person since you've taken that dove into wrestling?
Acceptance.
Yeah.
I'm accepting not just the losses, right? But it's the challenges that come with it. The traveling, the miles built up on your car, the gas prices increasing, um, having to deal with drama, like I always say, no matter what workplace you're in, high school tends to reform itself. Like everyone has those people. So it's like having to deal with the drama in a workplace that you see the same people over and over. Like it becomes, it's a lot. So I think just putting yourself in a position where it's like you understand what you're getting yourself into, you're learning as you go, but you also have to accept it. And that not everyone needs to like you. Not everyone needs to accept you. You need to accept you. You need to understand where you're going, and you need to get yourself there. And if you don't, enjoy the journey of how you tried, because in itself, those are the pieces, those are the stepping stones that will make or break that end point for you, wherever it may be.
Yeah, and I feel like that's, like I said, a great mentality to have. Acceptance, just in general, whether it's career wise, self image wise, is so hard to achieve. So you should feel, to say that out loud, like you should feel really proud of that, because I know it's something that like I myself and a lot of people still like struggle with just in general. So
And
that's
hey, I
something.
say that, but
Yeah,
I still think it. I need to take my own advice most of the
fair.
time. But, we're all in the same boat at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You just need to have that optimism overall and that self-positivity.
Yeah, and kind of taking a step back from wrestling, like you said before, you obviously have that background in acting and you majored in theater. But for those who maybe don't know, can you give us a little bit more insight into the extent of your theater and acting experience?
Yeah, so I've wrestled. I've been acting pretty much my entire life,
Yeah.
whether it be on stage in plays or musicals, chorus, anything like that. Band. I was in elementary school, I was a part of like a couple plays and into middle school, and then it really got big for me in high school, and that's what made me like, I want to do this. And then it wasn't until midway through college that I actually changed my major to theater and focus on it, because high school boyfriends and whatnot.
What was it originally?
Criminology. That
Oh.
was my original study. Yeah, that's what I went into. And it was cool. It ended up working out because I I learned a lot that I
Yeah.
didn't know. I actually wanted to be a probation officer, a juvenile probation officer, keep kids in line.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was it's just been a part of my entire life. It not selfishly, I like to be the center of attention. I guess I'm always looking for that approval or someone
Yeah.
to be proud of me. And I feel like I reflect that in the ring as well. But I love performing. And that's something that I've actually been thinking about doing again. I've been a place with wrestling that I'm happy with. And I just want to branch out back to my original roots and, be back on stage in a different way.
Yeah, and you have that extensive background, like you said. It's been a hot minute since you've done something, but
Yeah.
I feel like, especially growing up in acting and theater, I feel like, there's probably some gigs or some moments that are probably weird or maybe even funny. So, can you tell us about maybe an experience in the acting world in whatever realm it was that was weird or maybe funny to you?
So I have two stories
Okay.
for that, but the first was a little bit shorter. So middle school, I think it was like seventh grade. We were, it's not as intense as like high school or college would be,
Yeah.
but we all were given like similar parts, and it was just going to be interchangeable and kind of give everyone like, oh, you get to try it, you get to try it. And there wasn't really auditions. It was like you read it, they kind of had an idea, and it's like, what part did you want to play? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think that works for everything. Like, it's not going to be portrayed the
Yeah.
same way. Like, we can't all have participation ribbons, people.
Yeah.
Okay. There needs to be some kind of balance. So
Yeah.
that was weird in itself. But another moment was in college. It was for my senior year. It was for my senior thesis, the play that I was in. And it was a whole type of dynamic. I think I talked about a little bit. It's called Clybourne Park. The first act is based in like, I think the 50s or 60s or something, back when like racial times were really big, right? So the story is you have this neighborhood that starts off with an all Black community, or with an all white community, and it looks great. And then a Black family moves in. And then in Act Two, it goes where it's now a Black community with a white family trying to move in, and just seeing the parallels of how everything has changed. And it's a very racial yet comedic relief play. I highly recommend anyone like listening right now to look it up, Clybourne Park. It's very interesting. And there's a lot of lines being crossed. And I think it opened my, comfortability up to be vulnerable in that way. And the weird part that I'm getting to is in rehearsals, in the audition process, it was like, how comfortable are you saying X, Y, and Z? How comfortable are you acting like this or that? And then doing the exercises to just try to just be random and funny, to understand that these parallels are the same. And we would walk around the stage before rehearsals yelling out each other's lines and different things in different ways. And it almost gave you that sense of, comfortability.
Yeah.
But it was really strange trying
Yeah.
to, you're like, okay, what are we doing? And
Yeah, well,
just
it's
accepting it.
breaking that ice with a more like sensitive topic like that, a harder
Yeah.
topic to talk like that. But it's kind of cool that it intertwined comedy to break it up a little bit, because I'm sure even as like an audience member, you're going in, you kind of know,
We had a
so
disclosure. We had a
yeah, okay,
disclosure.
okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured that, but it, like you said, it pushes you out of your comfort zone, and I feel like that's what life is about, is exploring new avenues and opportunities. But I'm curious, in terms of the acting world, except maybe David Arquette, I'm just going to assume he's one of yours. Whose work do you admire, whether it's in the scope of television, film, or even Broadway?
Oh, I love that question. So obviously David Arquette,
Yes.
but my all-time favorite actor is actually Robin Williams. He's someone that I've idolized for
Yeah.
such a long time. He's a character within himself, and everything he's been able to have accomplished. Like, I wish I could have had the opportunity to meet him and just pick his brain. But another person that I idolize so much is Leonardo DiCaprio. And no, not just because Titanic is my favorite movie,
Yeah.
but because he can be anyone in anything. And he does not get enough credit. I mean, he gets enough credit from the fans, from the
Yeah.
crowd, but it's like Piers in itself, I think he just has so much to offer. And I'm so idolized by so many character changes, like whether it be Jack from Titanic to whatever his name was in Django Unchained
Great
to
Gatsby.
The
Yeah.
Great Gatsby. He played in, I just watched something else, The Wolf of Wall Street. Like,
Yeah.
so much. And he's great. He's great. I can't say enough about him.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those like legendary like a Tom Cruise. They've been around for forever at this point. But it like never gets dull. There's so many new roles and facets to the acting realm that it's, their whole filmography is just fantastic. And if you don't like one genre, they probably got one in another. So
Yes.
that's the beauty of it, kind of like music and wrestling too. There's so many different genres and styles intertwined in that. But on the topic of actors and celebrities, we've seen many of them cross over into wrestling, i.e. David Arquette. But if you could book your tag team with any celebrity and you're not allowed to pick David Arquette, because that's just an obvious, a given one, who would you love to work with, or do you think could stand a decent chance in the ring?
So wait, am I tagging with this person
Yes.
or okay? And it has to be a celebrity
Or an actor or
or an
something.
actor,
Yeah.
someone, okay. Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg. I'm gonna teach him how to run the ropes a little bit better. But
Yeah.
aside from that, I think it'd be him. He seems like he is so comfortable in the
Yeah.
ring and he feels like he just needs to learn a thing or two. And to be fair, he's been on WWE a couple of times in the last few years,
Mhm.
whether it be Sasha Banks' entrance, having a match with The
WrestleMania.
Miz
Yeah.
mid-match on
Yeah.
this year's WrestleMania. Like, I think he'd be a really fun opponent. I'd be like, you got this, boo. Just go out there.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great. But I'm gonna teach him how to run the ropes first, and then
Yeah.
we'll fix that.
That's just so incredible too. I mean, I wasn't planning on talking about Mania, but like that him stepping in, I felt so bad when Shane McMahon went down. I'm assuming everyone watched it. I felt
Yes.
so bad, but that was good on the direction of the cameraman and Jessica Card to kind of guide Snoop Dogg. And the Miz just sold the hell out of that. And then the doggy elbow. It
Yes.
was a good recovery. Unfortunately, it came at the expense of Shane McMahon, but they
I
worked
know.
pretty swiftly to have Snoop
Yeah.
Dogg. What if Snoop Dogg wasn't there though? Then I would have no idea what they would have done. They're lucky they had Snoop Dogg right there to step in and save the day.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, The Miz, like the fact that it was The Miz that was in that
Yeah.
situation, if Snoop Dogg wasn't there, at least The Miz, like he was
Yeah.
like doing this, and then he's
Yeah.
like,
He's
okay.
like
I
stalling.
think
Yeah.
he would have grabbed that mic and be like, ha, I win. Like he would have
True.
totally made the most of it. But no, like it's nice that Snoop Dogg was there because it almost worked better
Yeah.
than what it probably could have been because it was out of nowhere and it's
Yeah.
like, is Snoop gonna save the day? Like, is
Yeah.
that what's happening?
With a doggy people's elbow. That was iconic.
That was beautiful. Beautiful.
It really was. But I feel like you definitely have acquired some very valuable skills in acting. And so I'm wondering if is there any other aspects of theater or acting that you have felt have connected? Obviously, the improv aspect is always there, but that you kind of intermingled with wrestling that has maybe helped you along the way.
Aside from improv,
You can talk about improv too. I
just the components, I guess, in general,
yeah,
like
because
the
I feel
style.
yeah, anything that you've learned from acting or experienced from acting or theater that you've connected to your work in wrestling.
Um, I mean, obviously improv,
Yeah.
but aside from that, it would be just more the articulation. I think people focus on the match itself, but what's the build up to that match? What's gonna
Mhm.
piss people off or keep them extremely engaged, And I think it's the articulation and your delivery. And I think those are two key components in acting that a lot of wrestlers that are still learning, those are the biggest things. And I think those two aspects have helped me greatly because as I was still learning the ropes, I had that under my belt on how I delivered things and my tones and my levels. And overall
Yeah,
articulation.
and the drama of it too. Like a simple like a pause in a promo has like so much effect on it, you know? It's just like the small
Yes.
details. You already had that in you. And character-wise too, you know, a big part of you have two more questions for you. A big part of the Queen of the Silver Screen is obviously her look. You obviously have your fur coat that you like to wear a lot. But I'm curious, is there a certain story or inspo behind your favorite piece of ring gear?
Oh gosh, my favorite. Oh, I've gotten a lot of newer gear now, which
Yes.
I love. Um, Probably uh the set that I wore on Monday Night Raw when they were in Pittsburgh. That was my first set of that style of ring gear. I had like long tights and a top when I first started, and I
Yeah.
just did not like how
Yeah,
I
you've
was
gone like
portrayed.
the what's it called, singlet or one
Yeah,
piece a
I
lot of
went
the
into a
time.
singlet. Yeah, but I try to show a little more cheek, but I wanted to like, body image.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just felt like it wasn't the best. And I basically said I want to take this singlet and cut it into two pieces. That way it can still establish like a growth, but also like how I've evolved.
Hmm.
And I feel like that piece of gear, that was the first time I went to this newer place, Oak Heart, Pittsburgh. So definitely look them up for gear. And I was able to go to her, collaborate, and I told her exactly what I wanted, and she brought it to life. And I told her I needed it by this day, just in case, because I wasn't sure. And I get there and I loved how it looked on me. And then they're like, okay, we're going to put you in a match. And I'm like, what? So
Yeah.
the fact that I got to debut that gear set on that platform for the first time, it kind of opened up new eyes to those who didn't know who Katie Arquette is, and those that already knew me. And it was like, whoa, like it almost looked like I belonged up there based off of the gear. So,
Yeah, and I feel like personally, I feel like gear is such an like just over the overall presentation is just an underrated aspect because it can really enhance or hinder like someone's character, you know. Obviously
yeah.
starting out, you know, you're kind of still finding yourself, but you certainly have found yourself. I always love your different colored. I'm curious, how many coats do you own?
Just one, just one.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. It's stood the test of time. How long have you had your coat?
I've had it since because David Arquette was the one who gave it to
Yes,
me.
yes.
So 2018, since 2018, it's been
Yeah.
5 years.
It's been going strong. That's
It
impressive,
has.
to be
It's had a
honest.
few touch-ups on the inner seams,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's still in good contact.
You know, that's something you clearly hold a good value of it. A lot of people sometimes take things for granted, but you know, that's essential to the queen of the silver screen. I'm curious, do you have any visions or hints towards maybe your next piece of gear?
No, because I just got a bunch.
Okay,
But
fair.
I am very open to color schemes, and I actually just got a new pair. It's red, but it's also Scarlet Witch inspired because I was like, I want to theme it a little bit.
Yeah,
I've been sticking to different styles, different
yeah.
color combos. Now, what's gonna make people like, ooh, wait, I know what she's doing there.
Mhm.
So I have a Scarlet Witch inspired gear that I'm hoping that I might actually debut at MCW. So I guess we'll have to
Mm,
see.
mm. We will keep in mind, obviously, like we said, Katie Arquette versus Layla Gray going down, obviously, next this weekend is going to be super exciting. But Katie, before I let you go, can you please tell the listeners where they can find you on all your socials?
Yes, find me on all the socials. Facebook, I have a Facebook page, Katie Arquette. You can find me on Twitter, the KT Arquette,
The
because it doesn't
letters
like those.
K and T.
Yes, K and T, because I couldn't add three more letters. Actually, it
Yeah.
was just one, but and Instagram, the Katie Arquette. Please follow, share, retweet, and like everything. Much appreciated.
And always, whenever you go to the theater or the silver screen, think of Katie because she is the queen of the silver screen. Katie, thank you so much for joining me here today. It's been an absolute pleasure as always.
Thank you for always, and thank you for having me. Appreciate it.